So this right here was Nick Walker in 2012, and this is Nick Walker now at the 2021 Arnold Classic. The Arnold Classic, named after Arnold himself, features some of the best athletes we see in bodybuilding. Being the second most prestigious show after the Olympia, winning the Arnold Classic would of course put you as one of the best bodybuilders in the world today. The 2021 Arnold Classic went on like usual, featuring some of the best athletes that we have in the sport of bodybuilding. However, there was something this year that many people didn't expect to happen. The Arnold Classic title for the Men's Open this year went to Nick Walker. Nick was the youngest Arnold Classic winner in history. Look guys, he's 27 years old, doing his first Arnold Classic, which also happened to be just his third pro show of his career. You may ask, like, why is this a big deal? In bodybuilding, 27 is considered very young. In other sports like basketball, baseball, soccer, a player will be entering or be well into their prime at 27. But in bodybuilding, that's not the case at all. Let me explain. Let's look at the age of the winners at the last 5 Arnold Classics and Olympias, the 2 most prestigious shows in bodybuilding. So what I've done here is I've taken the age of the winners from 2020 all the way to 2016 for both shows and averaged them out. This gave me an average age of 38. We can then see that bodybuilders will enter their prime during their mid-30s. This is because, as you guys know, men's open competitors range between 230 to 300 pounds. So it takes a lot of years to actually pack on the size that these guys are carrying. If you want to know more about this, you can check out my video on how do bodybuilders get so big. Shameless plug. What's so exciting about Nick is that he's already actually competing with bodybuilders who are in their prime. He's beaten out big names like Steve Kucklow, Justin Rodriguez to name a few. And it's something we rarely see in a sport like bodybuilding. Usually at Nick's stage, bodybuilders in open are either going for their pro cards or they've recently acquired their pro cards, but they still lack the size needed to be competitive against other pros. Because of the time needed to actually get competitive against other pros, bodybuilders will use their late 20s and early 30s to pack on more size to be good in the pro leagues. Nick, on the other hand, is very lucky because he can use his late 20s and early 30s to pack on more size to be competitive against the top in the pro leagues with whom he's already competing against. It's crazy because if we compare Nick to Phil Heath, a 7-time Mr. Olympia champion who became a pro at the age of 25, Nick also became a pro at 25. After getting his pro card, Phil also took first in 2 pro shows in Colorado and New York. And he also came 5th in the Arnold Classic in 2007, where he was around Nick's age. Well, Nick took 4th at his first pro show, but won New York Pro and came 1st at the Arnolds. Let's keep this going. Phil Heath competed in his first Olympia in 2008, where he took 3rd place to Dexter Jackson, who took the whole thing, and Jay Cutler, who placed 2nd. Those are 2 legends he placed under. Nick will be competing at his first Olympia in 2021, and he's for sure a favorite to be in the first call out, which is the top 6. But winning it may be a stretch. When you look at the history of Phil Heath, one of the greats we have in bodybuilding who's won 7 Olympias, and when you compare him to Nick Walker, it looks like Nick is honestly on a trajectory like Phil Heath. Let's actually take a dive at Nick Walker's physique. Nick Walker brings a physique to the stage that's just so well put together. First, let's cover the most obvious thing that we see, his muscularity. As you guys may know, size is king in the open division, and it's for the mass monsters, and Nick is no short of that. He stands at 5'7", and he has so much muscle on his frame that he is regarded as a mass monster. What's also unique with Nick is that although he has a lot of size, he has no issues with his stomach. What we tend to see with guys is that when they put on a lot of size, the consequence is them not being able to control their stomachs. This leads to weirdly looking bodies because you have this shredded big body, but it has a stomach on it, and it just doesn't flow too well in my opinion. And of course, Nick doesn't have this issue. In fact, he has some of the best abdominals in men's open bodybuilding, and that's rare. When Nick hits a front double, you can just see that his strong abdominals actually help the pose. When you compare it to guys who haven't built their midsection as much, and as a result suck in their stomach, it just doesn't look as good as when Nick with fully developed abs hits the pose. And standing next to Nick, it's just very apparent what the other guys are doing. Nick does have very big obliques, so his waist is actually big, and we know that this is not a good thing in bodybuilding, but with the abdominals Nick has built and the size he has on his arms, he can actually hit poses to take away the focus from his big waist and allow him to turn his big waist into somewhat of an advantage whenever possible. Here's what I mean. When Nick hits the most muscular, he looks insane because his arms are so big that they out angle his waist. So all you just see is a massive guy with insanely big abdominals and insanely big arms, and it works, and he looks great. His legs, of course, you guys can see they're massive, and on top of the mass, he has great lines on his quads, hamstrings. His back double bicep, of course, we can't forget about that. Just looking at that picture, looks really good, you know, especially his lower sinking lats. But one thing I do want to bring up is his chest. Sometimes his chest looks small, and that's because his arms are just so big. He needs to really focus on bringing his chest up. I don't know if he maybe has to put on more size on his chest, maybe tweak his posing, but that's something I know Nick will figure out. Let's rewind back to the beginning of the video. So I showed you a picture of a skinny 159-pound Nick from 2012. This was actually a picture from his first competition. Although Nick said that this was the worst performance of his life, that same competition is also when Nick fell in love with bodybuilding. Regardless of the outcome, Nick believed that he had the genetics for bodybuilding and kept competing. With such a strong belief in his potential for bodybuilding, Nick then competed the following year at the Eastern USA's, a top amateur show for athletes trying to make it to the pro ranks. He came in this time at 198 pounds. This would mean he was 40 pounds heavier than his last show. Nick at the show won the teen division as well as taking third in light heavyweights, which was the class he was in. And this was against grown men while Nick was only 19. 6 months later, Nick comes back again, and this time he's 12 pounds bigger. He competes at the Master National Championships in the teen heavyweight division. Taking home second, this was literally just the beginning for him. Nick would go on to do his first national show in 2016 as a light heavyweight. This meant that he would be competing against more competition. He was the leanest he'd ever been, and against 30 tough guys, he took 6th place. Again, at this point, Nick was 21. Competing at his first national show, he knew that he had potential, so he kept going. He did 2 more national shows and he placed 6th in both of them. And of course, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking to progress. So Nick took 2018 off and did a pivotal move in his career. He switched coaches. He got with Matt Jensen. And with Jensen's formula, Nick grew. And eventually in 2020, at the age of 25, he finally earned his pro card. Nick competed at his first pro show right after. This was the Chicago Pro. Nick took 4th at his debut, which was good, but Nick wasn't satisfied. Nick then set his eyes on the New York Pro. This is one of the most popular pro shows you can compete in. Nick would go on and he took 1st. This would give him his first ride to the 2021 Olympia. The Nick hype was honestly at this point starting to pick up. Nick says that he wants to win 10 Olympias. The most Olympias ever won is 8 by Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney. All I can say is that if I had to put money on a guy winning 10 Olympias in men's open, I'd put it on Nick because look, he's 27. If he wins his first Olympia in 2022 at 28, he'll be 38 at the time of his 10th Olympia. So what do you guys think? I know this was a hype up video for Nick, but these are the type of athletes that I love to watch. You know, guys that have that mama mentality and guys who back up all their talk with their results. As always guys, thank you for watching and I'll catch you on the next one.